Hello, fifth graders. We are starting our first project. We've done a lot with the elements of art, which are very important. And now I want to do something on color, lines, patterns, movement. You're going to have a bigger piece of paper on the bottom. I want you to go ahead and write your name. You'll be seeing me draw this with a colored pencil because otherwise you can't see it. And I want you to think of a tree like the letter Y. So if I show you the letter Y, and you're going to make a fall tree that doesn't have any foliage on it. And the first thing you're going to start with is the trunk, okay? And we're going to practice this first. So there's the bottom of your paper, and it's going to get wider at the bottom. And you don't want it to take up the whole paper, the whole trunk, and then you're going to spread it out like a Y. See how that looks like the letter Y? We've been talking about block letters. And then at each section where it goes off, you're going to have where it looks like the letter Y. And you're going to want to go to the edge of your paper. Now each time I section it off, like I said, we're going to practice this first. This is my practice paper. Each time I section it off, it is going into the letter Y. And it should, if you've ever looked at a tree outside, it should be getting smaller and smaller. So now I'm going to go back to the real thing, the real paper. And I think this is I've cut it down so we would have space on our table. I'm not sure the size. This might be a 14-inch length, so it's a bigger paper, but it's still not as big as what you would probably be using. So see how it's wider here, and then it's getting narrow. Okay, so it's getting narrow as it's going up. When I'm halfway, that's kind of about halfway through my paper, I'm going to branch off into the letter Y. So there's the Y that we see. Now, in this section, if you want to have more than letter Y, you can. This could actually branch off into 3 parts here. I'm going to show you. If you don't think you can do this, then don't do it. I don't want you to do anything that you think is too hard. Think about how a tree would be moving and how it's going to get smaller and smaller. And you really want this to go through over to the edge of the paper. Okay? So I'm going off the edge. See how I'm going on the edge, and I'm going all the way across. And I'm going to probably have a couple different videos that we will stop, and I'll see if I can put them together with my app. If not, that's okay. So if you're drawing, like I said, with a pencil, I'm doing the colored pencil. And now I'm going to go back up, and I'm doing a section at a time. And each time, got stuff underneath my paper. Each time, I'm going to get smaller and smaller. Now when I get over here, see how my branches are actually overlapping, which is what you want. Creates the illusion we've been talking about of depth and giving your art project more meaning and also becoming cool. So you want to go all the way to the edge. Like I said, I will probably not show this whole video, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it. This is the first step. So you're going to draw your tree, you're going to draw it with pencil. Then, we've already talked about colors. Warm colors are like the colors of the sun, the orange, the reds, and the yellows. And the cool colors are like the colors of the ocean. They would be the blue, the greens, and the purple. And you're going to have, your tree is going to be painted with black acrylic paint, which we will eventually be using acrylics when we do our ceiling tiles, which will be starting soon. So the tree is going to be black acrylic. You're going to draw it with your pencil, paint over it, and you're going to decide, back to the warm and cool, one of them is going to be warm. You're going to have some lines here in just a second. So let me finish this tree. We're going to pretend this whole thing is done. Then you're going to come in, artist, and you're going to create some hills. We talked about background lines, and see, this is one of the sheets that we did talking about different ways to create illusions. So you're going to create like hills and valleys in the background. And then after you're done with that, you can bring in more lines. You're going to outline all of these lines that I'm doing with my pencil. You're going to outline with with oil pastels. I've left room for my name. And then I'm going to go all the way up until I get kind of like to the sky. You can have rolling hills here. Then back here, you're going to fill in these colors. Like this underneath the tree might be cool colors, and this would be warm colors. Or this would be cool colors, and this would be warm colors. It's going to be the opposite. And I will show you, this is actually, you would be painting in the background. So I'm going to, that's the first step, artists, for doing our painted trees. Artists, this is the step number 2. You've already drawn everything with your pencil. Something that I want to talk to you about, one of the principles of art is balance. You want to make sure that you don't have all your branches over here and nothing over here. You also want to make sure that you go all the way to the edge of your paper. And when you're doing your lines for your rolling hills, that you go to the edge, that you fill them in. You don't want to have these huge gaps. Now, these are called oil pastels, and one of the Facebook groups that I'm on for art teachers, an art teacher called them yummy crayons, which I just love. I love that saying. We have different types of oil pastels. These ones are bigger and thicker, and they have plastic paper on them. Some of them, the paper has come off, and some of them might be small like this. And I love that an art teacher called them yummy, because they are yummy. They're nice and creamy because they are made up of oil paint. And I've showed a video, I don't know if I've showed it, which grade I've showed it to before, is the making, sorry, I keep bumping my camera stand here, the making of the oil pastels. And it's paint mixed with, I'd have to go back and watch the video again, but it's a mixture, and so they are actually oily. So you might have some of this on your finger. What I want you to be aware of is when you're working on this, not to smear it and smudge it. Get a scrap piece of paper if you need to. If your oil pastel is dirty, rub it on that scrap paper. Now don't sit here and draw a picture, because your project is what we're supposed to be working on. And I went ahead and started so I could show this to you real quick. We talked about having one color of the tree. You're outlining it with the warm color or the cool color. I chose red. And then on the bottom part, I'm now working on the cool color. And like I said, be aware of your sleeves. Push them up if you need to. Put a piece of paper by it. Now, because I chose red up here, all the watercolors that I will be painting up top need to be the warm colors, which are the orange, red, and yellows. Now, when we use paints, remember, artists, we don't mix them when we're here in my art room, because you are using them with other students, and we don't want to mix them. You can mix them on the paper, but as soon as that brush goes into the watercolor tray, which I'm going to show you that video in just a second of how to paint with Miss Paula the paintbrush, you cannot mix it in the tray. However, if it blends on here, that is fine. So when you're using your oil pastel, be aware of what you're touching. Try to get on those pencil lines, and you're just doing the lines that we call that outlining, the lines that you did with your pencil. And then the next, oopsie, it's hard for me to see what I'm doing and hold my oil pastel up here. The next step that we're going to do after this is going to be the watercolors. And where I'm doing the blue, artist, is going to be the cool colors, which down in here, I would paint the purples, greens, and blue. So this is step 2. That is finished. Then I will clean up my mess, throw this little paper away if I had oil pastels on it. Try to keep, these are little, I call them hors d'oeuvre trays, because they are hors d'oeuvre trays from the dollar store. Try to keep them separate and in the correct color. Would be very helpful when other artists are trying to use them. And always take care of our supplies. So that is step 2, and now we'll be ready for step 3.